Hello, hello. Welcome to my YouTube English for professionals. You could also call it business English. So in my class for this semester, we're going to be talking about some important aspects of English in the business world. Today we're starting off easy. We're starting off with small talk. How to make small talk in the office. Later in future weeks, we'll be talking about things like how to write a professional email, how to prepare a presentation, more business-like things. But I wanted to start the first week off a little bit easier. So first we're starting off with just small talk. It's been a long time since I've been on YouTube English, so it's good to be back. Haven't been here. I hope you enjoyed your summer. I hope that you had a good summer. Oh, even Professor Cassandra's here. Hello. I hope you enjoyed Professor Kiva's class just before this. And yeah, let's just let's get started, I guess. Okay, let me go through these. So first, what I want to talk about is this great quotation that I found. Excuse me. This is by Carl Sandburg. He says, "Slang is a language that rolls up its sleeves, spits on its hands, and goes to work." So I think in Korean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think in Korean when we say slang, people often think of foul language, bad words, curse words. But in English, slang is not curse words. Slang is just another way to say something that is not formal. So Carl Sandburg says that slang is language that rolls up its sleeves to get to work, spits on its hands, and gets to work. So it means that it is language that is a little bit unconventional, a little bit informal, but it works very hard, and it really conveys the meanings of things. And we're going to be talking about some slang today, because when you make small talk, when you talk informally, English speakers often use slang. So again, that quote is, "Slang is a language that rolls up its sleeves, spits on its hands, and goes to work." Before we continue, can anybody give me an example of slang that they know, English slang? Can you write in the chat room any English slang that you might know? I'll wait to see maybe one or two thoughts, some slang. Any slang that you know? Sup. Yeah, sup. Sup is short for what's up, which is short for what's up, which basically means what is going on, what is up, what is around. Holy cow. Yeah, it's a little bit of an old one. Holy cow actually comes from I think it's Hinduism in India, because in India the cows are literally holy. They don't eat cows, they worship cows. So it comes actually from India, but yeah, we just use it as an exclamation of surprise. Holy cow. Chicken, yeah, chicken's a good one. Chicken means that someone is a coward. Someone is not brave. They don't do brave things, or they're scared all the time. That's a chicken. Good. These are some good slang. Okay, if you think any more, you can type them. Let's move on to the next slide, though. So, in informal conversation, which is what we're talking about today, small talk, informal English is probably more difficult than formal English because it requires the use of thousands of idioms, ever-changing slang, phrasal verbs, and contractions. So what are all these things? So an idiom, if you look at the slide, an idiom is a phrase. It's not just one word, it's a phrase, a set phrase that means something completely different from what it says. So the idiom I've said is, I heard it straight from the horse's mouth. I heard it straight from the horse's mouth. Does this really mean I heard the horse say something? No. What do you think this idiom means? Do you know what this means? I heard it straight from the horse's mouth. Has anyone ever heard this idiom? This is not an uncommon idiom. I think most first language English speakers would know what this idiom means. Do you have any idea what this might mean? Straight from the horse's mouth. Anyone? Someone said, no, Jenny said, nope, never heard of it. So straight from the horse's mouth means that you're hearing from the original source. So if I heard that my friend Bob broke up with his girlfriend, if Bob told me he broke up with his girlfriend, I heard it straight from the horse's mouth. I heard it from the original source. But if another person like Steve says, oh, Josh, did you hear that Bob broke up with his girlfriend? That's from a second source, not from the primary source, not from the horse's mouth. So straight from the horse's mouth means straight from the original source. That's what it means. And it's an idiom. So slang is usually just a word or maybe two words that is a substitute for another word. And again, it doesn't always mean what it sounds like. My example is this costs $1,000. Bucks means dollars. And actually, English has many, many slang words for dollars, for money in the US. Have you heard of any other slang words for money? Bucks is one. So I'll type this in the chat. Bucks, greenbacks, because all of the dollars in the US are green. They're not different colors. There's some more. Cash is not really slang. We have, you could say dosh. It's not as common. Dosh would be money. Some moolah. These are all just words for money. We have many, many, many more. We have many slang words for money, but bucks is a very, very common one that you would hear if you went to the US. If you went to the US, you would undoubtedly hear bucks. We use that all the time. Okay, a phrasal verb is another very, very common thing used in informal language. And a phrasal verb is 2 or 3 words in a phrase, and the last word is an my English just went, a preposition, like for, or in, or at, or to, or up, on, around. So my example is, my friend asked for the receipt. This is not a great example of a phrasal verb. There are some others. For example, good examples of phrasal verbs. Can you give me some good examples of phrasal verbs? Anyone? What is a phrasal verb that you know? What's a phrasal verb that you know? I will wait. What is a phrasal verb that you know? What are some, okay, so Jenny says start over, give up. Those are good. Ooh, Minji So says look something up. That's good because it's a good example where you're not actually looking up at something. So that's what phrasal verbs do. It's not like where you actually look up at something. Looking something up means that you're like investigating or researching it. Jenny says call off, check out. These are other good ones. Excellent. Very, very good. Yeah. So these are words that we use phrasal verbs in informal language, not often in formal language. They always have a synonym in formal language. So like look something up, research. Call off, cancel. Check out, maybe investigate. So there's always a formal synonym for a phrasal verb. Phrasal verbs are almost always informal. The last part of informal conversation is something I'm sure you all know about, which are contractions. So it's where you push the words together. So instead of saying they are, you say they're. Instead of saying I am, you say I'm. Instead of saying you are, you say you're. These are just contractions. Okay, so let's look at a few rules. These are a few rules of like informal language versus formal language that maybe you haven't studied about in books. Now, in Korean, the difference between formal language and informal language is very clear cut, very easy to see the difference between formal and informal language because you're either speaking like panmal or tonetmal. It's very different. The way that you conjugate the verbs or even some of the verbs or nouns that you use are different depending on the formality. English doesn't have that. We don't have different conjugations for different formalities. So what we have is that if a sentence is longer, a longer sentence is more formal. A shorter sentence is less formal. Now this is not always true, but it's often true. The longer the sentence, the more formal it is, the more words you're using. The shorter the sentence, the less formal it is, often. Not always, but this is usually true. So, an example at the bottom is a long sentence. Would you care for something to drink? Very formal. You can make that shorter and say, thirsty? Very informal. So yeah, so you can take a long sentence like, are you feeling hungry? Which would be more formal. Make it smaller. Feeling hungry? That's less formal. Hungry? Very informal. So not always, but typically the longer the sentence, the more formal it is, if it's conveying the same amount of information as a shorter sentence. Another one, as I mentioned before, is that, well, phrasal verbs, although they're longer, they are informal. So this kind of breaks the first rule. Remember, the first rule I said is that a longer sentence is more formal, but if you're using phrasal verbs, that's not true, because phrasal verbs will be longer, but they're less formal. So here, I will look into that. Is a longer sentence than I will research that. But the shorter sentence here is more formal. So be careful about with phrasal verbs, because if you use phrasal verbs, it feels longer, but phrasal verbs are more informal. Another thing to remember is that slang is always changing. So slang is extremely common in informal English, but you must be careful. Slang is constantly changing. If you find slang on a website, it might already be old-fashioned. Some examples of that is that some of you gave examples of slang like holy cow, chicken. It's kind of old-fashioned. It is slang, and people will understand it, but it's not common anymore. People don't really say that. In slang, it would be difficult for me to give examples of modern slang because I don't live in the U.S. anymore. I have not lived in the U.S. for a long time, so I don't hear a lot of the modern slang. If I go online, if I go to like Facebook or Twitter and read people's messages, there are some words that I don't understand because I don't live there anymore and I don't know the slang. So just that happens sometimes. Slang is constantly changing. My next tip, my next rule, don't combine formal language with slang. Also, don't combine informal language with formal vocabulary words. So I'll give you some examples. So just be careful combining formal and informal language because people will understand you. They'll know what you're saying, but it sounds very, very strange. So my first sentence is I have to. I have to. Now, have to is not the actual spelling, but it is what many people say instead of have to. Like I must buy. I have to buy. Instead we say I have to buy. It's easier to say as one word. I have to buy. An inexpensive meal. So have to is very informal, but inexpensive meal sounds very formal. Meal is a formal word. Inexpensive is a formal word. If you want to be informal, you would say cheap. Maybe cheap food would be more informal. On the opposite side, the second sentence, I must purchase. That's a very formal way to say I have to buy. So I must purchase some cheap eats. Cheap eats or cheap food would be very informal. So we're mixing formal, must purchase, with cheap eats, which is very informal. Just be careful how you combine these and think about the words you're using. Okay, I'm going to give you an example of this. In English, when real English speakers really speak naturally, they repeat lots of phrases. They repeat lots of words that are kind of pausing, thinking words. Different people have different words like this. Some people will simply say when they're talking and they're trying to think of what to say next, and they can't really think. They say like that. Some people use like. They're like, like I was going to the store yesterday and like when I was like at the parking lot and like there was another car like in front of me and like the car just wouldn't move and like I was like really angry. They'll use like a lot. Some people use like a lot. I am guilty of using it's my guilty thing. I don't even know I'm doing it, but I will say I would be like, oh, so that store that we went to, like the store that we went to yesterday, and it's not very good, and I use too much. And this is very common for English speakers. When they're speaking informally, they will use these small repeated words that they're called filler words. So my example here is I've combined a lot of filler words in this example. So I was like really hungry, I bought a sandwich that was like delicious, but I just didn't like want to eat it like right then, They want to keep talking, they don't want to pause. So we use these filler words to just fill in the blank spaces of conversation. It can be very confusing for speakers of other languages to hear this because it's all of these extra words that just don't matter. They don't mean anything. They just all mean basically. Okay, what I want you to do right now in the chat, you already did some of this. You said like look up something, call off, check out, clean up, dress up. I want you to give me some more phrasal verbs. I'm going to 2 minutes. Let's do this for 2 minutes. Just write as many phrasal verbs in the chat room as you can. And then we'll discuss like what they mean and maybe the formal synonyms. So if you can write as many phrasal verbs in the chat right now, that would be awesome. Please, 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 write in the chat phrasal verbs. Anybody have some phrasal verbs? Okay, I say clean up and dress up. That's good. Anyone else? Any phrasal verbs? Anything? Ooh, to figure out, that's good. Wake up something. Wake up something. To wake something up. Is that a phrasal verb? Maybe. I think that could work. Stand by is good. Dive into. Oh man, that's a lot of them. Dive into, end up, fill up, ask out, move up, go over, blow up, break down. That's a lot. Good. Anything else? Anything else? Anything else? Come about, calm down. That's good. Come about. Oh, I like that one. Cheer up. My favorite phrasal verb is shut up. It doesn't really mean to shut something up. I guess your jaw is shutting up, but it's a phrasal verb. Cheer up is a good one. I want to talk about that in a minute because cheer up in Korean and English are a little bit different. Eat out. Okay, these are good. Okay, you can keep typing them. That's fine. I'm going to start talking about what these mean because these are great. So I already talked about start over, give up, I believe. Look up something, that was research. Call off is cancel. Check out is research. Clean up. Clean up just means to, I guess, clean something. To, I can't even think of a formal way to say that. Polish something, maybe. Dress up. Dress up means to dress formally. So to dress nice. To not wear jeans and a t-shirt, but like a suit or a dress or something like that. That is to dress up. To dress nicely. To figure out means to find the answer. To discover the answer to something. Wake up something. I'm not sure if wake up, I guess wake up is a phrasal verb. Yeah, wake up would be a phrasal verb. And you can wake somebody up. You can wake something up. One thing to remember with phrasal verbs, I'm pretty sure that you all learn this in school, but people tend to forget. With phrasal verbs, it's, phrasal verbs. We're not going to get into the grammar of this, but there are two types of phrasal verbs. There's separable phrasal verbs and inseparable phrasal verbs. And most phrasal verbs are separable. So I think pretty much all of these that we've listed here are separable, meaning you can separate the words. And you must separate the words if the object is a pronoun. If the object is a regular noun, you don't need to separate it. So for example, with wake up, you can say wake up Josh or wake Josh up. You can put Josh in the middle of wake up, wake Josh up, you can put it in the middle. You can separate it. But if we're using a pronoun like him, you must separate it. You must say, wake him up. You cannot say, wake up him. You can't. Just to like throw away, to put something in the trash, throw away. Throw the trash away is okay. Throw away the trash is okay. Throw it away is okay. Throw away it, no. If it's a pronoun and it's separable, you must separate it. That's some grammar maybe you forgot about from school. Some other phrasal verbs we talked about were stand by. Stand by means wait. Just be patient. Wait. We're trying to do something. We're not ready yet. Please stand by. And then Jenny listed a lot of them. Wow. Dive into. Does anyone know what dive into means? Oh wow, oh man, I just scrolled down. There's so many more. Oh my goodness. I'm going to say it because we don't have time. Wow. Dive into means to jump. When you dive into the swimming pool, when you dive in, you go like head first. You jump head first into the water. That is diving into. But diving into also means to go head first, metaphorically, into a subject. So if you're learning piano, if you just started learning piano and you're really, really enthusiastic, you are studying piano all day, every day. You are playing piano for 6 hours a day trying to practice. You are reading piano books, you're researching about pianos, your life is about pianos. That means you have dived into pianos. You jumped head first. You went deep in the water, deep into pianos. That's diving into something. To end up means to finally do something. In the end, this is where you are. So I ended up in Korea. This is where I am. I traveled around the world a lot, but I ended up, in the end, I'm in Korea. To fill up means to fill like a glass with water, or it can mean to fill up your car with gas or diesel, petroleum, to fill something up, to fill it to the top, up. Ask out. Ask out is a good one. Ask out means to ask on a date. Specifically, it means a date, like boyfriend, girlfriend, date. That's asking out. Move up. Move up can mean a few things. Move up usually means that, like, level up. Your life is better. You have moved up to a better level in life. If you get a new job that pays a lot more money, or if you move to a bigger apartment, you have moved up in the world. Go over means to review, to look at it again. Blow up can mean explode, like a balloon. When you make a balloon bigger and bigger, it will eventually pop. That's blowing up. A bomb can explode or blow up. A person, if a person is very angry and they start screaming, that's blowing up. Breakdown. Breakdown can mean for things or people. Breakdown, like if you're driving a car and the car stops working, it's broken down. The car broke down. A person can also break down. If you have lots and lots of stress, like I think the Korean word is like minbung. You have like a mental breakdown. So that's minbung is mental breakdown. You just crash. Your brain stops working because of all the stress. MJ Kim said, come about. So come about means like something results. Something happens because of something else. What's a good example of come about? Maybe if... I cannot think of a good example of come about. There was a hurricane in the U.S. just a few days ago. And because of the hurricane, a lot of heroic situations came about. Because of the hurricane, this resulted. People were heroes and helped other people. Calm down means relax. Cheer up means to be happier. But I've noticed in Korea that if you're sick, if you like have a cold, and maybe your coworkers will say, oh, cheer up, cheer up. But that's not the right way to use cheer up. Cheer up is only when you're sad, not when you're sick. When you're sick, you should say, I hope you feel better. I'll write that down. When someone is sick, especially in the office, it's good to say, I hope you feel better. That's what you should say. Drop by means to meet someone or go to someone's house unannounced. You haven't told them that you're coming. So you better be close friends. Don't drop by people's houses that you don't know very well. Eat out literally means to eat outside. So you would go to a restaurant. If you're going to a restaurant, you're eating outside. And Jenny said, please get well. That's another good one. Please get well. I hope you feel better. Please get well. Both if someone's sick. Write down literally means to write it on a piece of paper. Don't just try to remember. You need to write it down. Get up. If you've fallen down or if you're lying down, you need to stand up, like 일어나다, to get up. Give in. Give in basically means to give up. So when you give in, you give up. You just can't do it anymore. You surrender. You fail. Go ahead means you go first. I will wait. You can go first. Go ahead. Sit down, of course, means sit down. Move on means keep going. But move on can also mean emotionally move on. If you broke up with your girlfriend or boyfriend and you're very sad, but you finally feel better, you have moved on. And people might tell you, you need to move on. You need to move on and go do something new. Move on means just forget about this and move to the next step in your life. Hang out. This is a common one in the US. Hang out means to just, like with kids, when kids are together, they play. They play together. But adults don't say, I'm going to go play with my friends. We just don't say that. We say hang out. I'm going to hang out with my friends. So adults hang out, kids play. It's the same thing though. Keep down. Keep down can mean a few things. Keep down can mean you're pushing someone down so they can never have achievements. So if your boss is always mean to you and your boss doesn't give you a raise and your boss doesn't see your accomplishments, they are keeping you down. That's one example of keep down. Grow up, of course, means to get bigger, to become an adult. You're growing up. And break up, I think, is the last one by Kaudi. So break up means, to stop being a couple. If you're boyfriend, girlfriend, and you're not boyfriend, girlfriend anymore, you are broken up. That's to break up. Also, bands can break up. So like the Beatles, the famous band, the Beatles, they broke up. Other bands, when they stop being together, they break up. They're not together anymore. Whew, that was a lot of phrasal verbs. That was really good. Okay, wow. Let's move on to the next thing. A few phrases that you can use in small talk in the office. So these are some small phrases that you might want to write down or try to remember, because I think they're quite useful. And I'm going to give you, the first word is the formal way to say something, and the second phrase is the informal way to say it. So for all of these words, all of these phrases, you're going to see the formal first and then the informal. So here the formal word is simple and the informal is a piece of cake. Now this is an old slang. Some people will say it's old-fashioned, but we still use it. People still use this phrase. So it's not, if you use it, you're not going to sound super old-fashioned. It's okay. So you can use these phrases to say that a task was easy, especially if it was easier than you expected. So my example is, I finished the project 2 days early. It was a piece of cake. No problem. It was a piece of cake. Okay. This one is, would you like to join me for lunch? Would you like to join me for lunch? That is the formal way to say that. And the informal way is, want to grab a bite to eat? Want to grab a bite to eat? Now, if you look at this picture that I chose, the picture in the slideshow, you might be thinking, why did he choose this picture? This is a very strange picture to choose for this phrase. But that picture is, I don't know if you've seen it. There was a very famous movie with Tom Hanks called Terminal, where he is stuck in an airport for, I don't know, I think a year, I think more than a year, 2 years or something. And he learns English in the airport. He has to live and eat and just sleep in the airport for years. And he meets a girl and he wants to ask her to eat something. And he goes in front of the mirror in the bathroom and he's practicing this phrase. He's trying to say, grab a bite to eat, bite to eat, bite to eat, bite to eat, eat to bite, eat bite. He can't say it correctly. He can't say a bite to eat. So I chose this picture. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, so grab a bite to eat, which is a little bit hard to say, like Tom Hanks had a hard time saying it in the movie, is the informal way to say, do you want to join me for lunch? So if you're talking to maybe people in the office that you don't know well, that are older than you or have been there longer, you might want to say, would you like to join me for lunch? But if you're talking to your friends or coworkers you're closer to, you can say, want to grab a bite to eat? So, good. Next. How are you doing? What's up? We mentioned what's up earlier. Sup. You can even say just very short, sup. But the shorter you make it, the more informal it is. So how are you doing is, very common, just asking, how are you doing? Are you having a good day? Are you okay today? These are good phrases to use to greet someone. I should say that in English, when you ask someone, how are you doing today? You're not asking for an honest answer. No one, or almost no one, will say, I'm having a terrible day. Today is terrible. No one says that. Everyone just says, good. How are you doing? Good. Okay. All right. Even if it's the worst day of their life, they will say, good. We're not looking for an honest answer. It's just a way to greet people. So, yeah. About the worst thing you can say if someone says, how are you doing? Or how's it going? The worst answer is, it's going. If you say, how's it going? Or how are you doing? And the person says, well, it's going. That means my life is terrible. I hate today. It's a very kind of a hidden thing that, we just don't say it's really bad. We just don't. Kind of stoic. But the informal way would be, what's up? So what's up or sup. But sup is not as common anymore. It's more younger people. Also, you might see this. This is not business, but you might see this if you're walking around outside and you see two foreigners like me, or if you're in another country. Women do this too, but mostly men, I think, do this. It's kind of an unspoken language that we do. That if I see somebody that I know, but I don't have time to talk to them, I'll do that. I'll put my head up. It's like, what's up? What's up? That's what I do. That's what everyone, not just me, everyone does. But if I meet somebody, like if I'm walking outside, if I go for a walk today in the park, and I cross another foreigner, another foreign guy, we don't know each other, but we see each other and our eyes meet, we'll do that. It's just kind of a sign of respect. You do that. Not that, that's only for people I know. But down is just like, I see you, I respect you, Yeah, it's so you might see that sometimes. People do that. I've definitely done it in Korea. Okay, next phrase. Satisfactory. Okay. Again, satisfactory is the formal way to say something is okay, it's all right, it's not great. So you might say this PowerPoint is satisfactory for the meeting tomorrow. That means it's good enough. It's enough. It might not be amazing, but it's satisfactory. It's okay. I'm going to go a little bit faster because we're running out of time. Must and have to. So must tends to be more formal. Have to, or especially have to, is informal. So yeah, use these words when you're talking about something that you need to do, that's required. So for example, sorry, I can't go. I have to do my homework, or I must do my homework. That's very formal. We don't normally spell have to, H-A-F-T-A. We don't really spell it or write it. I'm just writing it to show you how it sounds. It's really only spoken language that we do that. We don't write it in text messages even. But I just want you to see what it sounds like when I say have to. I'm not saying have to. That's too hard. It's just have to. I understand. Gotcha. So use these phrases when you want to respond to someone and say that you understand them. So gotcha really means I have got you, or I have got your meaning. I have got what you are trying to say. I have received your message. I have got your message. But we never say this long phrase. We never say I have got you. We just say gotcha. So that's the informal way to say I understand. So my example is, did you hear me? I said it's your turn now. Oh, gotcha. Means okay, I understand. I got it. I understand. Gotcha. Next is right. You know. You can add these phrases at the end of a sentence to confirm that the other person understands what you are saying. This is similar to like the Korean verb conjugation tio, like 맛있죠, 맛있지, that kind of thing. Kind of. So my example is, I really hate the new boss, you know, right? Okay, this is a good one. You will hear this if you watch American TV shows or American movies. And I'm sure that you have studied about direct quotation and indirect quotation at some time in your English studies. So direct quotation is like, Joe said, I love you. It uses like I. It uses first person. Indirect quotation uses third person. Joe said he loves her. No quotation marks. Now, when you are telling a story, when you're telling a story about something that happened in the past to another person, you can use direct quotation or indirect quotation. You can say, Joe said, I love you. Joe said, he loves her. That's fine. But often, very, very often, we will say like. And this kind of means said, but it's not as... The quotation doesn't have to be exactly the same. So if I can't remember exactly the same words that a person said, like the quotation from before. Remember we had the quotation, let me find it for you. This quotation at the beginning of our lesson. Slang is a language that rolls up its sleeves, spits on its hands, and goes to work. Now I could say formally, Carl Sandburg said, slang is a language that rolls up its sleeves, spits on its hands, and goes to work. But if I can't remember this quotation, if I can't remember exactly what the person said, and I'm speaking informally, I can use like. And I can try to say the quotation that I remember, even if it's not exactly right. So I could say, Carl Sandburg was like slang, rolls up its sleeves and works really hard, and that's what language does. That's not the exact quotation. I didn't say the right words exactly, but I said kind of the same idea. That's when we use like. And that's used very often when telling a story. So you could say, and she said that was nice. She said that it was nice. That's kind of formal. That's indirect quotation. Or you could say, and she was like, this is nice. We use this a lot when telling a story. So if I want to tell a quick story, I could say, so I met my friend yesterday, and my friend was like, I'm really hungry and I want to go eat something. And I was like, that sounds like a good idea. So he was like, do you want to try some Mexican food? And I was like, there are no Mexican restaurants around here. Where are we going to eat? And he was like, well, there's this new Mexican restaurant that just opened around the block. And I was like, well, that sounds great. And he was like, let's go. So we just say, he was like, I was like, she was like, was like. That's the kind of informal slang way to say he said, she said. Okay, and I've never really seen that in textbooks. I've never seen that really taught in textbooks, but it's a very common thing to say. Another phrase, that's unbelievable. Of course, that means that you can't believe it. It's just unbelievable. Like, your wife gave you a Porsche for your birthday? Yeah, right. Yeah, right is the informal way to say that's unbelievable. And you must say it in this specific way. You can't say, yeah, right. No, it's, yeah, right. You have to say it kind of while you are laughing. If you say it while you're laughing, it means you can't believe it. You say, yeah, right. That means that you can't believe it. And it's very informal. Don't say that to your boss. Can't handle, can't put up with. That can't put up with is a phrasal verb. So can't handle means you can't do something because it's too stressful. I can't handle driving in the city. It makes me very stressed. I can't put up with it. We also often use can't put up with for people. So if there's someone in your office, maybe your boss or a coworker that you really don't like, they really make you stressed, you can say, oh, I just can't put up with Bill anymore. He is so annoying. So it means you can't handle them. You just can't do it anymore because it's too stressful. That is can't handle or can't put up with. Another one is, do you have any information on? Or informally, so tell me all about. Both of these phrases are used to ask the listener for more details about a subject or story. But the first is formal and often used to discuss formal matters or business, while the second phrase is often used only with friends to talk about personal stories. So here's an informal example. So, tell me all about your date last night. I want to hear everything. That's friends talking informally. But a boss might say, do you have any information on the Hyundai project, maybe? Wow, we are really running out of time. This is my advice. Here are my 2 cents. Has anyone ever heard this phrase, my 2 cents? Have you ever heard this? This is a pretty common phrase, my 2 cents. And again, you might hear this in movies or TV shows. It's just when you want to give someone advice, you use these phrases. This is my advice is formal. Do you want my 2 cents? Here are my 2 cents is informal. 2 cents means, in this phrase, it means advice. So my example is, you didn't get the job, but this is my advice. Prepare more for your next interview. Or informally, I might say, do you want my 2 cents? You need to prepare more for your next interview. So 2 cents informally in slang means advice. And it's an old slang, but it's still used today. We still use it. So it's not old-fashioned to say it. Another one, if someone offers you something but you don't want it, you can either formally say no thank you, or you can say I'm good. This I've heard this mix up in Korean, like when people come to Korea. Someone offers them something and the English speaker says, no, I'm good. It doesn't translate very well. Like, I'm good? What do you mean you're good? I'm trying to give you a cup of tea. I'm not asking if you're good or bad. But yeah, I'm good is the informal way to say, no thank you. I'm good. It means I'm all right. I don't need it. I'm good without that thing. And next is I know, or no kidding. You can use either of these phrases when replying to information that you already know, or that is obvious. Yeah, so like, I've got 3 part-time jobs right now, so I'm always tired. Well, no kidding. No kidding means I understand. That's I know. If you have 3 jobs, you must be tired. No kidding. That's no joke. Or like the Korean phrase like 장난 아니에요. Like it's no joke. And another one, in trouble or on thin ice. So if you're in trouble at work, maybe if you say the new employee has been very late every day this week, he's really on thin ice. He's really on thin ice with the boss. So thin ice means in trouble. Because if you walk on a lake, like the picture shows, if you walk on a lake that is frozen in the winter, but the ice is very thin, it's a very dangerous thing because the ice might break and you might fall in the water. So walking on thin ice is very dangerous. You're in trouble when you're walking on thin ice. So we use it as an informal way to say that someone is in trouble or will maybe get in trouble soon. Okay, we have like 5 minutes left, but I want you to introduce yourself in the chat, who your name is, just say how are you doing or what's up. Try to do it in a friendly, casual way. Try to use some phrasal verbs, some slang, maybe filler words. Just try to write something in the chat very informally to kind of introduce yourself. So if you can introduce yourself very informally in the chat, I'll read through those, give some suggestions, and then we're done because we are almost out of time. Any thoughts? Can you give me some informal introductions in the chat room? I'll wait. I've been talking a lot. Just waiting to see anything. I know you guys are busy typing. It's a lot to type. So I'll just wait. I'll put this slide back up so you can see. Good weather, Yeah, good. That's actually good. That's really good. So we, in English, we often use the weather to start a conversation. We say, "Oh, it's good weather, right?" That's a very common way to start a conversation. Jenny says, "Hi everyone. My name is Jenny. Nice to meet you guys. Oh, I am so happy to work with you guys all. Thanks." Good. Yeah, you guys. That's very good. So these are some good points. So good weather. If you're speaking informally or trying to start small talk, a good way is with the weather. We talk about the weather. It's good weather today, isn't it? That's a good way to start a conversation. Jenny's also using the phrase, you guys. Now, I think in the past, guys meant kind of only men, but now it's just it means everyone, guys and girls. You can just say you guys. Some people don't like it, so if someone says they don't like it, you can say you can change it. But a lot of people are just, I say you guys to my coworkers who are male and female. So, but it is informal. It's not a formal thing to say. You guys. Anything else? Jung Haeun says, I wonder if kind of can be used in a formal situation too or not. Kind of is rather informal. You could use it formally. It wouldn't be as common. We would more say like slightly. Like, this is kind of bad. This is slightly bad. Slightly is just more formal sounding. So instead of kind of, you could say slightly. Kind of, sort of, is just more informal. I think we're just about done. Yeah, I've run out of time. It's been a good first class. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. And for small talk, I'll be back next week with more English for professional tips and ideas. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this class, and I'll see you next week. Have a good weekend. Enjoy your weekend, your Saturday and Sunday. Bye, guys. Thanks for coming. Bye-bye.